You got some questions?
I just wanted to do something with you, kind of give people an update on how you're doing here in the last 6 months because of this COVID thing, and you had some trouble with your shoulder, and just to see what you're up to.
Okay. So that was a question, was it? You weren't just musing what you might be doing.
No, yeah, I'd like to do that.
Well, I would have to say, like practically everybody else in America, since February, March, we've all been trying to hide from COVID-19, and I've taken it very seriously because I'm 78 years of age now, and I'm right in that prime kind of vulnerability time of life. Although I don't feel it, I feel like I'm 25. I always do. 32 maybe, so I can't be silly about this. Fortunately, we live. Our house is in the Pacific Palisades in LA, and I'm sitting in the garden now, even though it looks like I'm out walking around on the moon surface. I play poker with a bunch of guys on Friday nights. We do it on Zoom like this, and we all got bored with looking at each other's living rooms and decided to put in crazy backgrounds. There was a guy playing last night that had the COVID-19 thing with all the little red baubles on it, and a big syringe coming in, sticking it into one of them. But he was sitting in front of this thing, so it looked like the syringe was going into his ear. And it was pretty disconcerting all the time talking to this guy on Zoom with this syringe sticking out of his ear. So you can put crazy backgrounds. London Bridge, I'm sure you guys, all being technical, know far more than I do. But I picked this one because they're all fans of Space 1999, incidentally. The guys I play poker with. So they kind of thought this was appropriate, me having this thing. So I was playing a lot of golf and not doing a lot of working as an actor back in the beginning of this year. You know, the last thing I've done on camera was the Blacklist, which I flew to New York to shoot, and that was a big. I was going to say it's a big thrill. I don't know that it was exactly a thrill, but it was nice to get back to New York because I love New York. My son spent many years there in university, and my daughter's been living there for the past 7 years until November when she moved to LA. And they have now moved in with us because of coronavirus. And they're, where they were living in LA, it was pretty crowded. They've come over here, and that's what I was saying just prior to this, that my house is in the Pacific Palisades. For those of you that don't know where that is, it's all along the coastline. PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, just travels down here below us. I'm living up on a plateau, which is called the El Medio Bluffs. And the Pacific Palisades are where the hills rises up behind us. And we're way down near the beach. I'm still 300 or 400 yards from the beach, but I'd have to jump off the bluffs to get down there. I often take the dog down through the bush path to get to the beach. It's about a 10-minute walk to get actually into the water. So we're very privileged to live in an area like this. I bought this house because it reminds me of where I was living in Australia. I have a house. My parents had it. I grew up in it, and then I tore most of it down and rebuilt it. But there's still a central part of the house in Australia that's over 140 years old. It's very quaint. So when I came here, I wanted to recreate that feeling, and I built a house that looks old. Some people might think that's a very weird thing to do, but I've always worked with restoration materials. When I bought my house in London, I bought an old 1884 house that was constructed in Wandsworth, a terraced house. And I've always been into building. I like having a screwdriver and a hammer in each hand, and I'm just very into building things. I've bought and renovated 7 houses in my life, and this one is the 7th, although I've been back and done some other further renovations in Mona Vale in Australia. So we're in both countries very near the beach. I've always been a beach guy, and as a consequence of that, having an Irish Celtic background, I have a lot of trouble with the sun. I mean, I love the sun, and I've surfed all my life. In the old days, we would just wear what Australians call budgie smugglers, tiny little, very revealing bathing costumes that most of the lifeguards always wear, little navy blue things, and they don't give you any protection from the cold or the sun. And so for the first 23 years of my life, I surfed with a surfboard down in Mona Vale Beach in Sydney, which is near North Narrabeen, one of the great surfing beaches in the world. When I say near it, it's 2 beaches from us. There's a series of 18 beaches that, with all their headlands jutting out north and south of Sydney. And we're about the 8th beach from Manly, going up to Palm Beach. I still refer to my lifestyle in Australia a lot, even though I've lived in America on and off for the past 29 years. But I try to recreate that home here. And it's a very relaxed lifestyle. I have a very nice pool back out here in the back of the house, as I do in Australia. And in both houses, I built a big back room overlooking the pool. When I say it's big, it's 35 feet long and 27 feet wide, and it's 18 feet high because I have big vaulted ceilings with huge 12 by 12 Oregon beams, A-beams supporting the whole thing. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Will Rogers' property here in LA, out in the Pacific Palisades, but he was a very famous film star back in in silent movie days and right through into the early sound period. So from the 20s to the 30s, the 40s, Will Rogers. He's famous for a quote where he says, "I never met a man I didn't like." That's strange. He obviously never met Donald Trump. Anyway, enough of the politics. I have not been working, although I don't really count voiceovers. I do voiceovers every other day. Not necessarily always getting the jobs. Oftentimes, as voiceover actors, we have to pitch for our jobs.
I got it.
So they put us on tape. And I'm able to do that all here because I built a studio in my house. And in fact, this is the house that I built as a result of being the voice of Jurassic Park. And so I had to build a nice little studio booth at the back of the garage. Well, it's not actually in the garage. It's behind the garage where my office is. And there's a staircase that goes up to a lofted room above all of that. And so I obviously put a cupboard underneath the stairs. And that's what I use for my sound booth for the movie voiceovers that I do, or commercial trailers, any kind of narrative at all. And I did a lot of that work when I was working on Fox. I was the voice for Ally Mcbeal, introduction to Ally Mcbeal on Fox tonight, that kind of stuff, you know. But they used to require me to work late into the night doing voiceovers. And I'd be out driving around Santa Monica, Burbank, and all sorts of places, going to the various studios doing my voiceovers. And by the time I got home, I was pretty exhausted. I drank about 5 cups of Starbucks coffee. And I was somebody that didn't really drink coffee when I was younger. So coming to the States at the age of 47, and then, you know, I mean, I would have 1 coffee a month before I came to America. And then the ease of stopping off in a Starbucks and having one of those lovely Starbucks raisin scones and things they used to make. I'm a bit of a scone fan. I love them. My wife makes scones every Sunday here because she's British. So as I was saying, I haven't worked much of late. I don't think anybody in the acting profession has worked a great deal in the last 6 months because of COVID. They're starting to pick up now. I was asked to fly to New Orleans for a job. I did a test for it, and they were interested. They didn't actually give me the job. They said they needed to know if I was prepared to go to New Orleans and work down there on this thing. And I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to travel across America with the risk of going to airports and airplanes and staying in an area I don't know, working with a film crew I don't know. As much as I would love to have done the job, I turned it down. When I say, I mean, it wasn't offered to me. I was one of several people they were interested in. They then had to say, would you travel to New Orleans for us? And so I said, no, sorry, not going to do that. And that's pretty much what we've been like here. I take the dog for a walk. I don't stop and gather with people. I find it very annoying when I see all these very healthy people standing down on the El Medio bluffs here. They've been for long walks or runs or whatever it is. And then they get together down there. And they're all standing, some of them with their arms around each other, and others just talking straight into each other's face. So there might be 6 or 7 people, all neighbors from around here, who are having a Saturday or a Sunday morning chat. And they're in a ring of, as I said, 5 or 6 people, and they're all talking to each other with their masks off. I think this is insane. I'm a great proponent of masks. I'm not wearing one now, obviously, because I was playing a poker game every Friday night with a bunch of about 30 men and women, and we all used to go to this big printing shop that one of the guys owned, and he had a lunch break room where everybody could have their lunch. So we would go there on Friday nights when there was no work going on. We'd gather in this lunchroom, which wasn't a very big lunchroom. It was probably only about 15 feet by 15 feet. And it had one tiny window in it. And I was playing right up until about March. And I said to the guys, you're not taking this COVID virus seriously. We really need to stop meeting in this one room on Friday nights. Can you imagine 30 people breathing the same air? Absolute insanity. So I pulled out of the game, and I refused to go anymore. And I kept on warning them. And the owner of the property said, "I'd rather die with all my friends than give up playing poker with them." Well, fortunately, he didn't die, but his partner. We decided to go back on Zoom. They did stop playing poker for a while. There was an edict that came out in California that said meetings of more than 15 people have to cease. So fortunately, they observed that. I had already stopped playing poker for about 6 or 7 weeks before that happened with them. So they've started up on Zoom now. So I play poker with my guys on Zoom. And sometimes there's 20 people on Zoom. And we have a program that is called Poker RRR2. That's the website for it. And groups of people can play all across the country. Somebody from Australia could be playing on this app as well. It does have some problems when you click to bet, and it's a tiny bit slow, and the app can kick you off, which is very annoying if you've got a pair of aces.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but it's been nice to be able to see them all again, like I'm looking at you and on Zoom. You know, and there's a lot of ribaldry that goes on. Everybody's always bad mouthing each other about how they fluked winning with a pair of twos when the other guy had an ace and a king, and he could still never match them. There's a lot of laughter that goes on. They're all very funny people. Several of them ex-film and television people, a couple of actors, writers, directors, producers, and the guy that runs the printing shop. So it's every man for himself. One of the guys is an Uber driver. It's all good fun. But as I was saying, the partner to the printer, a fellow called Ernie, was playing on Friday night, and he had a bit of a cough going. And we said, "Well, you all right?" And he said, No, I've got the virus. He actually, well, you know about this, had been diagnosed he was feeling bad on Tuesday, went to see the doctor on Wednesday, got the results back on Thursday. He and both his wife were positive to COVID. That was last Friday. Then last night he was on again, and he seemed much better. And I said to him, "What have your symptoms been?" And he said that he felt a little bit like he had a mild flu and a headache it was a pretty severe headache. The headache lasted on and off for about 5 days. But he was clear of it last night. He sounded like a new man, and he said, "I think I'm fine." And he said, "My wife, on the other hand, has never felt anything. She's really surprised that she was COVID positive because she never felt a thing. She said, 'I feel totally normal.'" So I think you were a bit like that, weren't you?
Yeah, mine was pretty mild, honestly. I thought I had a sinus infection.
Yeah.
The only reason that I even went to get a test is because later on that week, I realized I couldn't smell anything. That was the telltale. So
Right.
But by then, I was probably already 7 days into it.
No.
Yeah.
I always smell my hands to see if I can smell.
Well, see, I was actually fixing a model, and you know how model glue is really.
Oh, yeah.
And I was brushing it on and putting the parts together, and I just sat there and I said, "I can't smell that glue." So I kind of brought it up close to my nose, and I still can't smell it. So I got a car air freshener, ripped it open, nothing. Went into the bathroom, squirted some cologne on, nothing. So I was like, "Oh man."
Yeah.
So I went to
Self-diagnosed, eh?
Huh?
Who needs a doctor?
Right. Yeah. Self-diagnostic.
Yeah.
But,
So I'm sorry that I've just been talking for the past 10 minutes about absolute rubbish. I don't think I answered your question, but
okay.
I've not been. I think it was, have I been working?
Well, whatever you've been doing. I mean, like the poker on Zoom is amazing. As much trouble as I had doing just me and you today, and get it on Facebook, I can't imagine having 20 people.
Once you get used to it, and everybody is familiar with what they do is they send me an invitation on my computer. This computer, actually, I do the Zoom on this, and I just click on it, man, and it comes up straight away, just as it finally did here with you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no problems at all. How many people? 17 people played last night, so 17 people came on. We kicked off at about 5 to 8. Didn't really get the game going because we needed 8 people to start, and we had to wait till about 8:15 until the 7th and 8th person clicked on, and then we started. We send $50 by. I use a thing called a Cash App.
Yep.
And the host, collects all the 50s. And if you do a rebuy, it's the same thing. You press the Cash App thing. Throughout the week, we play, and it's $10 a game. $10 to play. It's a tournament game. We don't play cash.
Right.
So you have 10, 15, 30. We've had over 30 people playing with 4 tables. But it's all virtual, which is extraordinary, you know. I don't understand how it works so well because, as I said, there have been some times when I've placed a bet and I got timed out, and I was positive that I pushed the button before it timed me out, because it has a little timer that goes around like on a clock dial. And if you don't push accept or bet before it gets up to the top of the screen, then it times you out and you're kicked out of that particular hand. And I've sometimes tried to do it for a ploy, not so much that I couldn't work out what I was doing. I'm sitting there with 3 aces, trip ace, and I don't want to bet straight away, like, bang, I got 3 aces. Right. I want to make it look like I don't know whether I really want to play, you know, so I wait till the very last second, and then I just click it before it gets to the top. And then they think, oh, he must have a pair of 2s, or, you know, a pair of 5s or 8s or whatever. And so that's why he was so hesitant. Now I've told you all, you'll all, please don't tell any of my friends.
No.
A lot of that kind of one-upsmanship going on when you play poker. People doing things, crazy things.
We got
any specific questions?
That's what I was going to say. We got quite a bit of members here saying hi to you. Robert Mather.
Hey, Robert.
Michael Hodges.
Hello, Michael. Michael Hodges.
Yeah, Hodges. Gary Reynolds, Tom Eilerman.
Gary, Tom. G'day, guys.
Dennis Chevalier. I can never say his last name. Dennis. He's one of my good buddies.
Is he? Okay. Hi, Dennis.
Oh, we got Keith Mayfield from Guam.
Keith.
And
hey, Keith. How are you, buddy?
Jim Wood.
Jim
Busher. So,
Jim,
we've got some good people here.
Couple of Jim.
If anybody wants to ask him a question, comment, and I'll ask it for him. But I was going to ask you about, is there anything in the pipeline for you? Where'd you go?
I'm just
Are you playing with your seat?
Well, no, I'm messing about, because when I move, see that the world behind me here is not behind me at all. There's actually a tree behind me. And they obviously have to, you know, if you move, then you get all this flaring going on. And there's
I see that.
You can see that I'm almost in the sunshine. I've just, whoa, baby, let's not do that. I got to get down, but the sun's bouncing off the top of my head. And it flares everywhere on the screen. I can see that.
Do you have some construction going on in the background?
Yeah, somebody's banging. You can hear it, can you?
Yeah, I just heard a saw and stuff. I was just curious.
Yeah. No, I'm out in the backyard. We got the big swimming pool here, and then
I got you.
My daughter has just built a sun house at the back there. My daughter and her boyfriend or fiance, they're getting married very shortly.
That'll be nice.
I booked a villa in north of Milan, in Italy, and we were going to have this wonderful September wedding there for Jess and Jeffrey, and it was Milan, or the north of Italy, became right near where the villa was, COVID central back in February, March, and we went, oh God, I hope it's all gone away by September. As Mr. Trump was telling us, so you wake up one morning and it'll just be gone. You know, so he was not right about that, nor is he right about anything in his life. Anyway, so we didn't get to go to Italy because it just would have been too dangerous. And there was some tears, obviously, but they've decided to do it this time next year. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hello, Nick.
That's my friend Jeffrey. He's the fiance.
Ah.
You can't see him.
Jeffrey, the fiance.
Yeah, no, can you be seen? No, see, oh, there he is.
Oh, yeah. He's popping out of the world there.
Yes, came over the top of the world.
I do have a question somebody wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Which I pretty much know the answer to, but I'm going to let you know. Well, I had it. Where'd it go? Well, how did it just disappear?
I may have to go to another location.
Oh.
Because my battery is getting low, and I can't plug in. Well, I can, but I'd have to bring all the cables out. Much easier just to go and plug in somewhere else.
Robert Mather wants to ask if you have any props or things saved from when you did the series, Space 1999.
No, I never did. I know that people think I'm crazy for not having done that. I think Prentice got something like a comlock or something. I do have a comlock now because of one of the fans, as you know, because you forwarded it to me.
That was built by Artur.
But all the props that we used, I've never done that in any show I've ever been in. Even though I might have loved the shows, I don't want any of those clothes. And I know the fans love to dress up in them, and so they're probably going, "Oh, why didn't you keep it?" But it was, I was in this stuff for the best part of 3 years, and I didn't want it, so I didn't take it.
I can imagine.
And the use by on or the interest thing. I mean, for the longest while, people wanted the little stun gun thing, and there was a peak of interest that went up through the years until they were selling for, I don't know, a couple of $100 if you could get them. I don't think anybody would give you $10 for it now. Although maybe somebody online right now would, but I don't have them, so don't ask me. No, I didn't ever keep anything. As I said, I do have some memorabilia now because one guy made a fabulous 3D complete model which stands about 12, 15 inches high of me as Alan Carter in space.
Oh, yeah, we've got one of those.
Yeah.
Right here in my collection.
You actually have one, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. That's it. Gordon.
Captain Alan Carter.
Yeah. All right. He's got prize of place in
no. You were supposed to be lieutenant, right?
Oh. I was never a lieutenant.
Never a lieutenant.
Fred Freiberger.
Freddie. Crazy
Fred Freiberger said, yeah, we're going to be making some improvements on the show. And he said, you'll be pleased, because I had said that I didn't want to come back into the series the way they were planning it. And so very nice, Gordon. Very nice.
Here's the other version of it, with you being on the Eagle.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very attractive. I better go plug in inside. Okay. I can still keep talking. You probably won't see any difference because I've still got the world behind me, haven't I? I'm going to walk you through as I go and plug in. But
one of the guys wants to know, Andrew wants to know if what was the atmosphere like working on the Space 1999 set? Was it fun? Was it? Which I've heard some of your stories.
For me, it was always fun. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of people. I mean, you might only just see me and Martin on a spaceship together, just the two of us. But there's 40 other people in the big studio room with us at that time, So hang on, I've just gone into this room now. Yeah. Where is the dog? That's not it. Hang on a minute, guys. Where is it? Oh, all right, there it is. I got to unplug that and then plug that in there. Sorry, I'll be with you in a second. Because I've had my arm out of action for the last 5 months, I've now moved into our spare bedroom, and I've got about 7 appliances in here that all require connection, electrical connection, and I don't have enough plugs. So you see here, I've got this one and this one, and I've got to undo that from there. I'm not typical like you, Todd.
Not today. I wasn't. Not today. I was struggling to get this thing going.
Well, thank God you did, eh?
Yeah, I love talking with you, and I know the group, the fans do too. Yeah, Roy helped us a lot. He's been doing his own videos, so I might be able to swing it from here on out.
Oh, there we go. We've got our power back.
Right. On.
What was the question? What was the question we were talking about?
The working on the set. What was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, no. It's a bit hard to explain it to you if you haven't seen a film set. But for example, Moonbase Alpha, the original one, the large Moonbase Alpha, because they cut it down into half size for the second year. That was a vast, as you will remember. I mean, it was as big as it looked. It was a very big area. Martin's section, and then he comes down through the steps, the sliding doors out into Moonbase Alpha itself. And we always had Xenia and Prentice and Suzanne and Anton and Clifton and a lot of extras who were permanents as well with us, who were never named as characters, but obviously they wanted a continuity of people that were there. And so there was always about 15 actors, including the permanent extras that were with us on those sets. And when Martin was shooting a moment with Barbara and the others were not required, that would mean that there was 13 of us just sitting around doing this, twiddling our thumbs. So we would play games, we'd play cards, we'd play I used to play a lot of backgammon. I love that game. Actually, there wasn't a lot of card playing, strangely enough. It happened occasionally. But we'd get behind the sets. It wasn't soundproof, so you had to talk very, very quietly.
Oh.
And Martin and Barbara always had a couple of those film-type deck chairs. We all had them, actually, but they had special ones with their name on the back of the chair and so forth. I got my name on the back of the chair in the second series.
Right.
But I got on particularly well with Martin. He and I are both Geminis. He was born on the 19th of June, and I was born on the 18th of June. And whether you believe it or not, there is definitely some kind of connection about, I don't know, with other astrological twins.
Right.
But both of us being so closely born together, although he was born 10 years before me, we have a lot of similarities in the way we approach our thoughts about acting and just our general attitude to life. So Martin and I would get in corners and just chat all day long about things that were, particularly he was a raconteur. If you think I talk a lot, Martin would talk even more than I do. If we get invited to do a talk somewhere and they say, it's half an hour, but would you like to do the hour? And I say, I'll do 2 if you want. Martin was the same. Once he'd get going about the industry and his life in the industry, he had so much experience and so many wonderful memories, as indeed I do too. So it was great. I had that kind of personal relationship with him. He said that he felt that, he told me, he said he felt that we had a rapport that he couldn't strike up with a lot of the English actors. I mean, he was very friendly to everybody, but he just kind of liked the way, as I said, we thought along a very similar process. And Martin liked the women, and indeed so do I, and did. And I was always very lucky on the set that I tended to have a great deal of rapport with a lot of the young ladies that came on the show. And Martin was, it generally didn't go beyond just being friendly, but Martin always thought if he saw me talking to them that I was having some kind of affair with them, and he went, how you doing with Robin over there? And I said, oh, you know her name? He said, yeah, how's it going? What's going on? I said, Martin, I'm a gentleman. Gentlemen never tell. And that would frustrate the hell out of him because he wanted to know. But both he and Barbara are very intelligent people, very well-read, well-schooled. We would play Scrabble. Oh, that's a game we played a lot. Scrabble. And another game that I don't know who invented it, but I can't remember whether Barbara showed it to me or I showed it to Barbara. But it's along the lines of Scrabble. It's you just take it looks a bit like a crossword puzzle. You have lines. It looks like, but instead of just being 4 lines, it's 5 lines by 5 lines. And so what you have is, it's actually 6 lines to create the box. You have this box with 5 lines and 5 lines that way. So you have 25 little boxes. And you have to make up words. You get 10 points for a 5-letter word, and you get 5 points for a 4-letter word, and 3 points for a 3-letter word. You don't get anything for a 2-letter word. You don't get anything for a 1-letter word. So 2 people only play this game.
Right.
If you go first, you might say X. So we both have to, without showing each other, you have your own, you write down X anywhere in those 25 boxes. And you cannot move it later on. So you have to use a ballpoint pen, not a pencil.
Oh.
And then I might say R. So then we both have to put in an R. And then you might say T. And we both have to put in a T somewhere. But strategically, it would be best to mostly start with consonants on the outside because you need your vowels to follow. And you have, and if you get a thing like a Z or an X, you got to be very careful where you put them because there's very few words that start with an X, for example.
Right.
So you might need to put it in the second column for a word like exit or example. But it can only be 5 letters long. So that was a game that we loved playing. Barbara one day did something which you're not allowed to do. You can't repeat a word. So you can't have ample written along the top and then ample written down the side. You can't do that. But she broke the rules because she went home and I've never seen anybody do this. She managed to get 5 words across and 5 words down. And the way she did it was to use the same words each time. Yeah, twice. And you score amazing amounts of points. But I'm not a very good speller. And Martin and Barbara are fantastic spellers. But because it's a competition, I was pretty damn good at it. Barbara would generally win, or Martin. And then occasionally I would shock them by winning and she'd say, oh, that's not a word, and we'd then be allowed to look it up in the dictionary. But just like Scrabble, you're not supposed to look at the dictionary.
Right.
There's a huge argument at the end, So we passed our time, we thought, sometimes with silly pursuits and other times with rather intellectual pursuits. I mean, there's a lot of time when you're not on camera. But in Space 1999, when we were shooting a Moonbase Alpha, we were practically always required on set because,
right.
action, not just the dialogue that's happening between 2 people here, but you'd have action going on behind you all the time. And that was Roy Button's job as the second assistant director. He would decide what the extras were doing. He'd give them things to do. There's always people walking over and saying something, and then bringing over somebody else, and you can see they've got some kind of crisis going on. And we might not ever focus on that, but it's just giving them things to do because they're not all just going to sit there and chat with each other. That would be counterproductive to an interesting situation.
Right.
For example, in Australia, when our television started, we didn't have enough money to hire
Uh-oh.
daily employment in the shows. So if we did a cops, show about the police, it'd generally be the internet connection is unstable. It says. You all right, mate? Have I been solid with you?
Just for a glip, just
Yeah.
for a little.
So you'd have two cops talking about something. There was a show called Homicide in Australia, and it had about 7 actors who were the stars of the show, and then there was a group of other people that you would see in a cop situation. There'd be people, the desk sergeant and so on, and secretaries and people doing stuff. But with the Australian show, there was only ever about 4 people on the screen at any given time because they didn't have the money. And then you watch a show here. Oh God, now I can't even remember any of the cop shows. But and they would have like 40 people in the room doing stuff. There'd be villains being handcuffed and being pulled through the back of the scene, kicking and screaming. And it's got nothing to do with the scene you're watching. It's just what's going on in a police station, which all that kind of activity would be going on. People coming in and crying because they'd been mugged and somebody arrested because they're drunk and they're still drunk. You got to work out all these little things to give people to do. So there was a lot of activity that went on. And not only were we all, it really was a very friendly set. But afterwards, every night, when the show was over, we'd finish at 5. We'd finish shooting at 5:20, which is a very strange time to stop.
Yeah, 5:20.
5:20. Yep. It had to do with union rules, and they could call 20-minute. If they were in the middle of a scene and they thought they could finish it in another 10 minutes, and it was coming up to 5:20, they'd ring a bell and they'd say, "Can we take the 20?" And if nobody objected, somebody objected, said, "No, I got a doctor's appointment." And then the director would have to work out whether he could shoot that scene without that person now. But more often than not, they'd be right up against it in a scene and they weren't quite finished and they just needed those extra 5 to 10 minutes. We would take the 20 and shoot through to 5:40. I think most people understand that, generally speaking, England and America had far more money to be able to make their shows.
Right.
And the unions made certain that if there was a camera that was, you'd need cable pullers to keep the electrical wires and stuff all going to the camera.
Oh, yeah.
And there were people that were specifically designated to pull the cables. And if the cameraman was trying to move the camera and he couldn't get it because the cable to the camera was in the way, if I bent down to pick up the cable, it'd be like, "No, you don't touch the cable." The unions were absolute about that. That's why more often than not that on the film crews that you work, people that are designated to be there, and sometimes it seems like some of them are doing nothing. They're just there to make the numbers. Whereas in Australia, the way the Australian film industry grew was we would have maybe only 7 or 8 people on the crew. I've shot with only 7 or 8 people on the crew. Cameraman, focus puller, the guy that helps carry the camera and push he's called the grip.
The grip, yeah.
Grip, yeah. And then there's a sound man and a sound operator. And there's a lighting gaffer and a lighting man. about 7 people, you know. And a lot of people would double up and do things that you wouldn't be allowed to do in England and America. You know, it's changed. It's obviously changed because the unions have become quite big, and Australia started making some big blockbuster films. I don't know whether most of you folks know, but The Matrix, all the big Matrix films were made in Australia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It looked like it was America. And Gatsby was made in Australia. I'm just trying to think of films that are big and spectacular. One of the Mission Impossibles was made in Australia. I mean, there've been, and then even more so and more surprising, tiny little New Zealand has become kind of movie central of the world because they made all of the Peter Jackson movies of The Hobbit and
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings down there, yeah. You know, so many big blockbuster films have been made there, and the scenery in the South Islands of New Zealand is the most spectacular scenery you've ever seen anywhere in the world, and a lot of that stuff that was done externally for Lord of the Rings was so spectacular because of those incredible mountains and stuff. It is very spectacular.
A great segue to the next question from Andrew Philip Gillen.
Oh yeah, Andrew Gillen wants to know, how different was your experience working on Star Trek Deep Space Nine in comparison to Space 1999?
Well, as I've already said, we were a very close-knit group of people, and we had a good time together. When I went on to Star Trek Deep Space Nine, I worked almost exclusively with Cole Meany. I mean, there were other actors that I was working with at the time, but I have to say that he's well named, Cole Meany, because I thought he was a bit mean. You'd think when another actor comes on the show that your character and he are supposed to be good friends, that he would endeavor for 2 reasons. One, because that's the way it was written, and that's what we should have been, good friends, and show that friendship. But also because he is one of the stars of the show and been working on it for many years, and I was a guest actor that had a very large role that came onto the show. You'd think that he would have shown me some friendship and wanting to be kind and just kind of friendly. But Colm would do his work, and then he'd go straight out to his, he had a condo. What do you call those things that they have on all those big movie sets where they drive them around? It's a big caravan outside.
Oh, yeah.
Winnebago. Yeah, he had a huge Winnebago. Now, by contrast, when I worked on Next Generation with Patrick Stewart had his own Winnebago, and we were taken out to the Mojave Desert to shoot those sequences of being on that desert planet. Very difficult because it was 115 degrees, and I was going to say in the shade. There wasn't any shade.
Right.
Mojave Desert, but except for going into Patrick's air-conditioned Winnebago. Now, I was given a little Caravan, which was nice. Thank you very much. It was okay. It was fine. Suited my purposes. And but both Will Wheaton and Patrick Stewart had huge Winnebagos. And I have to say that they were both incredibly friendly. Don't eat lunch over there. Come into my Winnebago. And I would go and sit with Patrick in his Winnebago, you know, and he was friendly. We talked about stuff. We were of a similar age. And I remember him saying to me at the time, "Oh, God, I miss the theater so much. All this bloody bullshit of Star Trek and so forth. You know, I so wish I was back on the British stage." And I said to him, "Patrick, you know you're going to make millions and millions of dollars. Never have to work again in your life. You're going to be one of the richest people on the planet. Doesn't that excite you?" No, not at all. Well, I thought it was very funny because it's always when people have got money that they think that not having money is such a bad thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
However, he seems to have changed his tune because he went on to make many Star Trek shows after that.
Oh yeah.
And indeed even has got another one starting. Look, I think he's a hell of a nice guy. And as I said, he was always very friendly to me, whereas Cole Meany was not. Now, maybe Cole Meany, I mean, I always thought there was one of two things, or not one of two things, but there might have been something going on. He might have had some lady friend stashed away in that Winnebago that he wanted to get back to, you know, because he never invited me in. He never said anything. He'd finish the scene. He'd just turn and walk out and go. And he was in his Winnebago. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what the hell was going on in there. On the other hand, he might have been writing a film script and he wanted to get back to doing it. There might have been something that was urgently taking him back to that Winnebago. So I might be thinking of him in a more generous attitude if I think that he had a real reason for going. But he never showed me any kind of friendship, which was very strange. Same thing happened when I worked on Blacklist. I really like James Spader. I think he's a fabulous actor. And I've seen a lot of his career, and I love the film. Is it called Wolf that he did with Jack Nicholson?
You got me on that one.
Yeah, where they were werewolves.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, when I did the Blacklist, you've seen Blacklist, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and maybe some of the guys talking have seen Blacklist too. My character was very wealthy and very independent, and obviously had plenty of supporting people around me, like bodyguards and stuff. But you didn't see them. And when James Spader came onto the set, his character has a bodyguard with him. Now, when I first came on the show, I shot my sequences with the boy first,
right?
My son, and we did all that stuff, and we got on very well with everybody. And then on the last day, I had to stay in New York for a week. I got to work with James Spader. I hadn't worked with him before. But a very different attitude came about. Everybody we were all quite good friends, and everybody was very happy when we were shooting the sequences with the two of us, my son and myself, and the other guys. But when we got into the big house, which was supposed to be my home, and Spader came out, I was ready to do the scene. And I've worked with people like this before. If their characters don't like each other, they don't want to create a relationship with you for that reason.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's their method or they think it gets in the way, I don't know. But we were due to start shooting at 8 o'clock in the morning. We all had to get there like 5:30 in the dark and then get made up and stuff and then come out on set by about 8 o'clock. I was on set by about 8 o'clock ready to shoot the scene. And we were in this huge house that they'd rented because my character is supposed to be a multimillionaire. And I went to sit on one of the chairs, and the second assistant said to me, "Oh, Nick, no, don't sit on the furniture. We've just got these two chairs here, and they're props that we've brought in. You can obviously sit in those." I said, "Yeah, sure, okay, fine." So I went and sat in the chair, and I was running the lines with myself, and I was wondering where James was. And I noticed that there was a man, an African-American guy, standing just behind the chair I was in. And I'd never seen the show. So I didn't know that he played James Spader's bodyguard.
Yeah.
And that he was a very important character in the show.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And as I said, this room had all sorts of wonderfully antique articles and artifacts in it. There was this great big hanging carpet on the wall, which had strange patterns in it that looked like it was a map of the world, but I don't think it was. It was just, but very, very spectacular looking thing. And the African guy was there, and I thought he must have been a lighting man because he was sort of looking around and stuff. And so I walked over and talked with him. I said, "How you doing?" He went, "Hi, hi." And I said, "I'm Nick Tate. I'm going to be playing." And he said, "Oh, and he named the character. It was one name, one word. Do you remember what it was?
I can't remember, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Was it a name like Banneker or something like that?" He said, "Oh, I'm Banneker." Well, whatever the name was. And I went, "Oh, yeah." And I thought, what's he mean? I'm Banneker. What's that? I didn't realize he was an actor,
Yeah.
Because there was all kinds of people, a lot of African people working on the show, Chinese people, just a multitude of people. And he wasn't doing anything. And so I couldn't quite understand why he was standing there. I thought he might have been an assistant to the producer or something like that. So he was quite friendly, but we didn't talk much. And then eventually, about half past the hour, James Spader came in, and he didn't say, "I'm sorry for holding you up," or "nice to know you." He didn't talk to me at all. And I wanted to speak with him and say, "Nice to meet you. I've enjoyed your work over the years." There was none of that. Just came in. He went and talked to the director. And the director said, "Right, would you like to run it?" And he said, "Yeah." And the director said, "Well, Nick, take your place." So I went and sat in the chair the way he told me he wanted to sit. He said, "James, you'll come in and you'll sit there next to him." And he said, "No, I don't think so. I think I'll stand here." There was a big fireplace, and it had a big fire surround, a very high fire surround. And he could sort of perch his bum on the fire surround, which was slightly behind me and over the top of me like this, And the director said, "Oh, yeah, so you can dominate him, right?"
Dominate.
He didn't say anything to that. And I thought, this is a very smart move, We are both supposed to be two very adversarial people, and he's trying to entrap me in this scene and tell me facts of life that he thinks that I don't know about, telling me about how my son has been pulling the wool over my eyes, and that was happening, but my character wouldn't accept it. And I had to have him try to dominate. Well, no, I didn't have to have him try to dominate me. That in the script is implicit, that these two people have their own opinions about what is right or wrong, and but he was not going to sit next to me. So I thought, well, am I going to sit there like somebody who's being reprimanded by the headmaster? And I thought, no, not at all. So I just lay back in my chair, like I was like, I didn't give a damn, And I actually thought later on, I'm pleased he didn't want to talk to me. I'm pleased he didn't want to run the lines with me. After we blocked it, and we didn't really say the lines, he said, "We'll just do final touches and then we'll do a take." No, he didn't say that. "We'll do final touches and we'll come back and do a final rehearsal." And James said, let's just run it. Which means sometimes when an actor is well enough prepared, they don't actually want to rehearse the scene. They just want to do it and see what happens. And sometimes it works very well, because that spontaneity, particularly with two characters that don't know each other, can be a good idea.
Right.
So when he said that, I realized that I was not going to get a rehearsal with him, and that we were just going to shoot it. So I got up and I went, and they were doing final touches with the makeup coming to this, and the wardrobe fiddles with your bit here, and the lighting camera. If that means final touches for everybody, they've all got to do their last. And it takes about 5 minutes to do that. So I got up out of the chair and I went over to the big hanging drape, and I I looked straight into the drape, and I was about 12 inches from it, and I just ran the dialogue for myself, recognizing that I wasn't going to get anything out of him. So then they called, "Are you ready? Let's do this." I went and I sat down, and we did the scene, and it went fabulously. I think we shot it twice only, and they said, "Thank you very much." And whilst it was a strange experience to not get to know James, when he was finished, he was gone too, just gone. Nice to work with you. Sorry I couldn't be friendly with you because that's just the way my character is. I've always done that when I work with other actors. I've always been friendly to them and generous to them, especially if I'm a character that's been on the show for years or months or whatever. Why not make people feel comfortable? But I mean, I've experienced it before with Meryl Streep when I did Cry in the Dark with her. The director said to me, "Nick, you haven't met Meryl yet." He said, "But just know this. She doesn't want you to be friendly with her." And I went, "Yeah, my character, right?" He said, "No, just you in general. Your characters, you are the chief investigative detective, Inspector Charlwood, and she hates you. Her character hates you. So Meryl doesn't want to like you, Nick Tate, the actor. That's just the way she works."
Yeah.
And he went, "Well, that's kind of weird and freaky, man, And he said, "How many Oscars have you got, Nick?" And I said, "I haven't got any." He said, "How many's Meryl got?" I went, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, okay.
This is the way she works, So, both she and James Spader and Cole Meany, maybe they've got the secret. Maybe they do. I've always just been friendly to everybody.
Right.
I'm like a puppy dog on the set now. Hey, how you going? Like me. I like you. Can I lick you? Whereas they're honed in on what they're doing. Martin was very like me too. I mean, he's friendly to everybody, talks to everybody, makes everybody feel welcome.
Right.
Good to work with Martin, and Barbara, but she's less gregarious, but she's friendly. And most actors I've ever worked with are friendly,
Right.
and good fun to work with. But Meryl, obviously, and now there was another thing. I was actually originally offered another role in the film, which was the role of the chief.
That's loud.
In Australia, we have Queen's Counsel, which is like an attorney, or a barrister. And I was to play the Queen's Counsel. They wear wigs and everything when they're in court.
Mm-hmm.
Judge wears a wig, just like the British courts still do today. And I was playing the QC who was defending Lindy Chamberlain, who was the actor. And that was Meryl Streep's character in Cry in the Dark. She was accused of having killed her baby. And she said that the dingo ate her baby, which is a very famous line. And he said to me, "Nick, don't try and befriend her. Don't go over the coffee urn and say, Meryl, I've always loved your work, And I said, "But I do." And he said, "Yeah, well, don't. Just don't do it." Right? Okay. So, but playing the QC, she really liked the QC. And just before I started filming, I'd learnt the lines of the QC. I was going to do it. And the QC's character's name was Phillips. Fred Skepsey, the director, rang me at home the day before I was due to fly to Alice Springs and go and work on the film. He said, "Nick, we've started shooting. We've had a bit of a hitch here. And I have to tell you that I don't want you to play Phillips anymore." I said, "What, you firing me from the film?" He said, No, I'm giving you a better role." Well, I like Phillips. What better role is there? And he said, John Hargreaves was playing Charlwood, the chief investigative detective against Meryl's character. He had to go to France. I'm working on a movie in France, which he'd been on before. We thought we had time to shoot him when he got back here. but we don't, and he can't. So we've lost him. I'd like you to play Charlwood. And I said, but Charlwood's a bastard. And he said, yeah, great role for you. And then he said, however, if you played Phillips, Meryl would love you, and you'd go and have dinner with Meryl at nighttime on the set, bring her over a cup of coffee and have a chat and be friends, because she likes Phillips, but she hated Charlwood. So you cannot befriend Meryl. It's the way it is. And, you know, it was so hard, so hard. I saw her so many times walking by me. Sometimes she'd walk by me and she would punch me. That's how Meryl works. I'm standing there and she walks by me and she goes, bam, and she punched me in the arm. She'd say, do you want to run the lines, copper? Now, what am I supposed to say? Go fuck yourself?
Yeah.
Or, no, I don't want to work with you because you're a bitch. Or, yeah, okay, I'll run the lines with you, Meryl. I can't call her Meryl. Got to call her Lindy. You know, that's, you know, I mean, she didn't hurt me, but that's just the way she was. She wanted to let you know that this is my modus operandi. This is how I am, you know. That's why you give me a flick on the arm or a punch on the arm, just to let me know that her character didn't like me.
When the movie
that's about the only time she ever made any kind of reference.
Oh, so when the movie wrapped?
Therefore, she wouldn't like me as a person. And as I said, you know, maybe Cole Meany uses the same kind of method, and maybe James Spader does too. I don't know, but I don't.
Right.
You know, I don't probably didn't answer the question.
No, you did. That was good. I'd like to know personally, did you do your own stunts?
Oh yeah,
1999.
Yeah. I've always. I used to throw myself all over the place. There was one stunt, and only one stunt in Space 1999 that I refused to do. And I've told this story so many times. All the actors had a stunt man that was brought on to work with them or for them. And if you had to fall off of here or roll on the floor there, I would do all that stuff, you know, or fight the cave people and, you know, that one about, what was that called?
Full Circle.
Hmm?
I think it was Full Circle.
Full Circle, yeah. I did all that stuff, you know, and happy to do it. I mean, I'd been in the Green Berets in Australia in the army, you know. I knew how to fall. I knew how to punch. I knew all the rest of that crap. And I wanted to do it and show it. And one time when they said, no, you know, they brought in the stunt people and told us this person's going to be your stunt man. They brought in this guy who had a big belly and very, very short cut hair. There's no way in the world this man, even in a fleeting moment from side on, that you would ever think that he was me, you know. And I went to Sylvia Anderson and I said, I want to do my own stunts. She said, Nick, you're not allowed to. And I said, but this is ridiculous. This man that you brought in doesn't look anything like me, you know, and people will watch the show and think, oh, that's not Nick, you know, and I don't want that. Fortunately, Sylvia liked me enough to go, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. So then she made the head stuntman cast around and try and find somebody that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
Came up with a fellow called Timmy Condren. And Timmy Condren didn't look anything like me at all, actually. But his hair was kind of like mine, and his physique was kind of like mine. So that in a fleeting moment, if you saw him falling from here or going there, you wouldn't necessarily say that's not Nick, you know. Timmy was a fantastic horseman and a swordsman. All stunt people come from different areas. Some people are great athletes. Some people are great acrobats. Some people are good physical fighters. They've got all kinds of backgrounds that they do things. Timmy's background was that he was great on horses and he was a great swordsman. And in fact, what he would do on the weekends was he would put on these demonstrations with other stunt people where they did jousting. Do you know what jousting is?
Oh, yeah.
The days of old when the two horses would run down and the king was up in the thing and the queen and all the people would watch these guys. They'd come down and they'd have these long spears that they would be riding on the horse with.
There's no way I
They
do
called
that.
those things, and they would hit each other off the horse, and then because they had to either kill or pretend that they could kill the other one, they'd jump off the horse and then come and deliver the coup de grace with a sword. But if they didn't get off fast enough, and if the other guy was still able to move up after having been hit in the chest by one of these great big wooden spear things, I mean, that would finish me. If I was riding flat out at somebody else and they hit me with one of those, what are they called? Great big wooden spears. They do have a blunt end on them so they don't go into you, but they hit you so hard that you're knocked off your horse. And he would do this every weekend. And then they'd jump up and then they'd sword fight. And, sometimes you get little injuries, you know. And, why did I agree to Timmy being my stunt man? The stunt head of the stunt department put the statement to me, says, Nick, we rely on the generosity of an actor wanting a stuntman to work with him so that we've got a job. And this will be a great job for Tim. He'll be on the show as long as you're on the show, and he'll get a salary every week. And by you not wanting to do your stunts for you, you're taking a livelihood away from him. I said, well, I'm sorry, Alf. It was Alf Joint was the head of. I said, I can do all the stunts that so far we have talked about. And I've got no objection to Tim being part of a team of people that work here. And but I can't think of any stunt that would be going on. There's no jousting going on, so I won't have to do that.
Right.
And he won't have to do that for me. And he said, but you can rehearse with him and he can give you advice. I wasn't going to argue with that. I thought that sounds reasonable. So he could have a job. He could be working on the set with us. And he said, and also he's got to get on camera sometimes, otherwise he doesn't get the actual fee. So sometimes in the background, you know, if I was walking through, he'd do the walkthrough. But none of the stunts. But I would have him rehearse the stunts with me. I would welcome his input to say, how about we do a roll this way and then jump that way, or throw a left hook punch and come in with a leg slide underneath, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And he was good at all that stuff. So I said, yeah, we can do that, but I'm going to do the stunts. And he would rehearse and block with me. Then one day in an episode in the second series, when Maya, Catherine Schell, turns herself into a monster, and they put Maya on the bed and strap her down because somehow or other she's become confused and is becoming this monster anyway. And suddenly the monster appears on this gurney, but with straps on and trying to get off the gurney. And Dr. Helena Russell is screaming, Maya, you know, come back to us. And Alan Carter comes in, and I rush over to the bed to try and shake the monster into turning back into Maya. The monster grabs me and throws me across the room. So Charlie Crichton decided to put the cameras on the floor, shooting upwards, so they would see me rush in and run over to the monster and grab hold of. As I grab hold of the monster goes boom, and then I fly through the air over the top of the camera. And because he had the camera down on the floor, as you might well know, and the people watching and listening to this, all film sets are 4 walls and no ceiling. All the lights are up there, and the sound man's got his microphones all hanging down from him. So you never shoot upwards, never. But Charlie Crichton's got his camera on the floor, so he's shooting upwards, and he can see so he orders that they bring in a false roof, but the lighting man said, well, I got to have light. So they used a scrim, you know, that's like tissue paper, so that when they light it, it looks like it's a white ceiling, but it will spill the light down through it. It's not tissue paper, but whatever it is, and they had wooden struts in between to hold it up. And it was literally 7 feet high, right? So if you're shooting at a normal level, you wouldn't see the roof. But if you tilt up and you go, if you're down low and you're tilting up, you can see this roof. And anyway, he wanted to be able to see me go over the top. So I looked at that and I said, well, yeah, we can do that. But they put in a mini trampoline. So instead of me just walking in, I had to run in and bounce off the trampoline. I was basically going to vault over this guy whilst the stuntman just sort of, he got part, as I was coming over, he went like that and made it look like the monster that he'd thrown me. And I looked at this and Timmy showed me what he thought was the way to do it. And I said, but Timmy, I'm going to hit the ceiling. And he said, no, you won't hit the ceiling. I said, well, I don't know, off a trampoline, especially as my legs go over, I think my foot's going to hit the ceiling. And he said, no. And Charlie cried and said, come on, I need to do this now. We're coming up to 5:20. We need to do it. Let's do it. So I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And they went, what are you talking about? What are you not going to do it, for Christ's sake? I said, because I'll hit the ceiling. And, you know, and then I'm going to fall on top of the camera and hurt myself. Charlie, work it out another way. You don't have to shoot the scene. He got pissed and angry with me because I was saying no. Timmy Conran said, Nick, it'll work. So Charlie said, well, then I want Tim to do it. I didn't want Tim to do it, but I said, are you sure you can do this? And he said, yeah, okay. So they put the camera on the floor and they put a mattress on the floor so that when I come over or Timmy comes over, he would land on the mattress. Well, just as I had predicted, he came in, bounced off the trampoline. The stuntman gave him the extra push. He hit the ceiling and fell flat on the floor. He broke his 2 front teeth and his collarbone.
Yeah.
I was mortified that my man had damaged himself. He was going to be off work for 6 weeks because he got a broken collarbone. And the 2 front teeth could be fixed because they were caps anyway. He broke the caps. But the stunt looks pretty good because he actually did hit the ceiling and fell on the floor right in front of the camera with a huge thump, you know. And then I had to recreate that thump so for the close-up. But it was very depressing to me that they didn't, you know, that they didn't listen to me about the ceiling's too low and you're going to hit the roof, you know, and the guy did. And Timmy was off work for about 7 or 8 weeks. And I felt really guilty that he wasn't going to have any money, you know. I gave him a present, but I always felt bad about it for him, you know.
That's probably part of a stuntman's deal, though.
Well, that's true. Yeah, a lot of stuntmen get hurt. A lot of stuntmen get hurt. And oftentimes they won't show you they're hurt because if they think you're a crybaby, you're not going to get the next job.
Right.
So,
About the gig.
yeah. Any other questions?
Probably so. I do know that
You're running out of time?
Huh?
You're running out of time?
No, I'm not running out of time.
A lot of people are thanking you for your time, though.
Yeah, a lot of people are thanking you for taking the time to talk with us.
Well, look, it's my pleasure to talk to people who know and understand what we do, and they have this great love of Space 1999. I have a great love for Space 1999 too. It was probably the best 3 years of. There's only one experience I had that beats it. And that was I did a musical comedy called Canterbury Tales, in which I had to sing and dance. And I was about 27 years of age. It was back in 1969. I was cast in London to play Nicholas the Gallant. And I was going to take over from Nicky Henson, who was doing the role in London. And I auditioned for it and I got the part. And then Nicky Henson wanted to shoot Girl in My Soup with Peter Sellers. And he wanted, because he still had 2 months to run on his contract, He wanted every Wednesday off because he was doing Wednesday matinees and Saturday matinees, as you do in musical comedies or in most theater. And the theater company said, no, you can't have Wednesdays off. And so they said to me, well, we've got you to do, maybe Nick can do the Wednesday matinees, and then take over from Nikki. And unbeknownst to me, the producers didn't want to let Nikki go. So they agreed that he could have his Wednesdays off to shoot Girl in My Soup, but he would have to sign another year with the show. Now, they'd already signed me to do the show. So now they had a dilemma because, I mean, they loved Nicky. He was already in the show, and he was excellent in the part. They wanted him to do it. They now had me, and they said to me, well, you can stay on as his understudy. And I said, I was 26 or 7 years of age. I don't want to be an understudy in the show, thank you, I've never done that, and I'm not going to start now. And then the guy said to me, well, we are taking the show to Australia next month. We haven't cast your role. Would you like to go to Australia? And I was, I'd been in England for 4 years. I'd go home with my name in lights. Nick Tate in Canterbury Tales, and Johnny Lockwood in Canterbury Tales, and Evelyn Page, an American actress, and Nick Tate. So this was a great thrill for me because when I left Australia, I was a young working actor, but I wasn't a big star. And to go home doing Canterbury Tales, which was a fabulous musical, I did it for 418 performances. So it ran for best part of 2 years. And I was in it for most of that time. I had to pull out at the end because I was offered a television series in Australia called Dynasty. Not Dynasty, but Dynasty. Long before the American series of
Dynasty.
This was in
Much different. Yeah.
This was in 1970. And I went on and did Dynasty. And so I left Canterbury Tales. And they only had about another 6 weeks to go. Producers tried to keep me where that was another big argument in life. But I managed somehow or other to bend their arm and get out of the contract. And I went on to do Dynasty with my dad, who came out to Australia to play the role with me.
Right.
And the strange connection about that to Space 1999 is it was a big splashy show, and there were a lot of magazines and things that had front page Dynasty pictures of myself and my father, because we played father and son in the show. And it was a show that's not dissimilar from the show that Brian Cox has been doing recently, where he plays the patriarchal figure of a big mogul, and his sons working under him and daughter are all trying to make sure that they can inherit daddy's business. Succession. You know that show?
I haven't seen it, no.
It's a fabulous show. Well, Dynasty was very like that. It was about a patriarchal family. My father played the tyrannical father, and then their three sons, who ran the television company, the newspaper company, and their legal firm. And it ran for 2 years. It was a great thrill to do it. But I was just explaining that the other show besides Space 1999 that was one of the cornerstones of my life was Canterbury Tales. It was the greatest thrill of my life because it's, you're working on stage and there's 1,000 people in the audience. And we would get nightly 7, 8, 9, and one night 12 curtain calls. That people love the show so much. And working on a television series, you can't feel the love.
Right.
Because you do a scene, so what? Maybe the cameraman will go, great job. Or the makeup lady says, oh, I love what you're doing. You get these little moments from single people. But it's not like being in the theater when the laughter is coming and the cheers are coming and 1,000 people are standing going, encore, encore. It is just, I cannot tell you, it's orgasmic to feel the love coming across the footlights. And I had that for 418 performances. So Canterbury Tales And I've been in many shows that have had fairly similar responses. A show called Caravan that I did, which was about 6 people that are locked in this caravan together, and they think they're going to have a wonderful weekend together, and it's just mayhem. It's very, very funny. And another show I did called Don's Party for the famous Australian playwright David Williamson. That was the funniest play I've ever been in my life. Very political, very cleverly written. They made a movie about it. I unfortunately wasn't able to do it because I was doing Space 1999. I had played Don in Don's Party in Australia before I came away to England. And they said, we want to make a movie of this. So where will you be? And I said, well, I'm going to be in England. They took 2 years to set it up. And by then I was into the, was I doing the second? Yeah, doing the second series of Space 1999. And I couldn't come back and shoot it.
Mm.
So they gave that role to John Hargreaves, who was the person I replaced in Cry in the Dark. So there's wheels within wheels and everything in my life. It's amazing.
Right.
Well, it's a good thing you did 1999 because now you got action figures and everything else like that to remember you by now.
Yeah, oh, it's mine.
Oh, there you go. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah.
There he is. Yes. Oh, can you see? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't talk about this, but this is another big thrill in my life to work on this show.
A little closer. A little closer.
I see.
Your background's messing with the picture.
Hook.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, sir. We loved it too.
Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams,
And you.
and Nick Tate.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that was you. You were just
Noodler.
Noodler.
Make him walk the plank.
Yep.
Every time that movie comes on, we look for you now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had, I remember Fred Skepsey. I was working in London, not London, I'm working here at on the Fox lot, and I saw him in the commissary. And he shouted across the room, "Hey, Tate, I've just been to see Hook. I didn't see you in the movie. You told me you were in the movie." I said, "I am in the movie. I'm in it all the way through." "Oh, I didn't see you." He didn't even recognize me as Noodler.
Yeah.
But you should tell the story about the gentleman who played Mr. Smee, talking about you back in the 70s.
I don't recall that. Mr. Sweeney?
No, Mr. Smee, the guy who played in
Bob Hoskins.
Yeah, Hoskins, yes.
Yeah, what about him?
You had told us a pretty funny story about.
Oh yeah, about him telling Steven Spielberg I wasn't a Cockney.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know why Bob did that because, I played a very minimal character in Hook. Wasn't a scripted character originally. Well, they said he was Noodler, but I didn't come on the film to play Noodler. I came on the film to play another character in a scene that they decided to drop. I never shot it, but then Spielberg had seen my auditions, and he said that he wanted me to stay on. And they brought me on to play Noodler. And so Noodler and Tony Burton, the bald-headed black African actor that played the trainer in all the Rocky movies and was his man in the corner all the time. Tony was a lovely fella. And there are a lot of stories to tell about him too. But when I came on the show, I was playing a Cockney, and I'd lived in England for 25 years. So, that was one of the easiest accents for me to do. But Bob Hoskins said to me when I first came on the show, he said, "Yeah, I know you." And I said, "You do?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You was in that Space 1999, weren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I was." And he said, yeah, I like that show. That bloody Michael Barnes, the little casting director, poor folk. He would never give me an audition. He would never, I wanted to be on that show so bad, you know. Yeah, no, I love that. And he said, you play that Australian. I mean, you are Australian, aren't you? And I said, yeah. He said, yeah. So, you know, I became quite friendly with Bob. But later on, one time in one of the scenes when Stephen wanted a pirate, he would give the extras who played all the pirates lines to say. And when you do that, they can then join Screen Actors Guild. Because if they say more than 3 words, they have to be a Screen Actors Guild member. And they were just members of the extras, and as such, they don't get paid as much money. So to get a SAG card meant that they would double their salary, and so they loved it because Stephen almost every day would choose one of the extras to say a line, and then he'd get a SAG card. But then he'd have to have somebody tell the American actor, who's an extra, not even an actor, how to say the line as a Cockney, you know, like, make him walk the plank. Make him walk the plank. It's only 5 words. Make him walk the plank, you know. So Stephen said, Nick, how would he say that line? And I would tell him. And one time Bob Hoskins would happen to be in the scene. Said, yeah, what are you asking Nick for? And Spielberg said, because he's the real deal. He said, he's not the real deal. He's a bleeding Australian. What are you talking about? And Spielberg looked at me. I'd been on the movie for about a month at this point. He said, you're Australian? And I said, yeah, yes, I am. And he said, but I thought you were I thought you were Cockney. I said, Stephen, I've lived and worked in England for 25 years. I'm Cockney. He said, he's bullshit. He's not Cockney. Once an Australian, always an Australian. Now Bob thought he was being funny because we're standing in front of 150 people on the crew.
Yeah.
But really, you know, Stephen was a bit concerned that maybe I couldn't do the Cockney accent now and that I'd been tricking him. And Bob thought it was all very funny. But anyway,
sometimes
I've outlived him.
There you go.
He died.
Yeah.
Really hurt me. And then dear Robin Williams, oh God, he was such a nice man. Swear to God, I think I've told you all that. Again, I got into Space Nine, and I got into Hook because of Robin Williams. You remember that story? I had auditioned for it, and I didn't know that I got the part, but I've been in and I auditioned, and I had a very good audition. I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And then I was asked to come to the studio on a Thursday afternoon to be fitted for wardrobe and makeup. And as I arrived at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when they were all winding down, this blue van came past me in between the studios. And I'm looking for studio 13, you know, I'm looking on number, it was 13, looking for studio 13. And this blue van's coming. So I went up against the wall like this as the van went past me. And this man stuck his thumb out like that, hey, you know, as he drove past. That looked like Robin Williams. And I was stunned that Robin Williams would be giving me the thumbs up. So I went down, did all wardrobe and makeup and everything. And on the Monday, I turned up at the studio 5 o'clock in the morning to get all made up in the wardrobe and makeup again and come back on the set and work with them. They'd all been working on the film for about a month, so they were all together and they knew each other. And they were shooting, and I was brought out onto the set, and they waited until they finished the scene or finished the take that they were doing. And the first assistant said, ladies and gentlemen, just got a little bit of information for you. A new actor is joining the Pirates today. This is actor Nick Tate. He'll be playing Noodler. Steven Spielberg. I said, how do you do, sir? Welcome aboard, Steven said. Dustin Hoffman said, oh, welcome aboard, dear boy. Came over and gave me a big, because Dustin played Hook from the minute he walked into the studio until he left at night. Again, another method actor. Was always talking like Hook. And then Robin Williams came over and he threw his arms around me and he said, I saw you the other day, he gave you the thumbs up. Congratulations. And he pulled away from me and I was stunned. I thought, So he didn't say any more. And then I met Bob Hoskins and a couple of other people. And then we started the scene. So this is going in my brain. Well, how did he know that was me? And well, he's come over to give me a big hug and everything. I went over to they have a little coffee urn thing in studios where they supply little snacks for the actors. So you don't hold up things by needing to go and have a cup of coffee or break elsewhere. It's a very clever idea. And I went over to the coffee urn. I was pouring myself a cup of coffee. And suddenly Robin came over and stood alongside me. And he said, "You got the part." And I went, "Yeah, Robin, I'm sorry. Can I call you?" Of course, yeah. And I said, "I don't understand. How is it that you, I mean, you didn't know me. I didn't know you. I'm walking into the place in a pair of jeans. And how did you know I was coming to play Noodler?" And he said, "Oh, you don't know?" And I said, "No, I don't know what." He said, "Stephen couldn't work out who to give the role to. He had auditioned about 50 actors. So he asked, well, I don't know about 50. He auditioned quite a few actors. He said, so he sat Dustin and myself down during one of the dailies and said, 'Now I've got some auditions for the character of Noodler. I can't work out who to give it to because they're all good, you know.' And he said, 'I voted for you.'" So Robin Williams was the reason why I got the part of Noodler.
Nice.
And you know, I loved him for it. And we talked about us. And he's the sort of guy that would just walk up to you anytime and talk to you. He remembered everybody's name. He just was so friendly to everybody. Again, you know what the other story I told you about Meryl Streep and James Spader needing their character to like you before they liked you, you know.
Right.
Well, Robin's character in Hook certainly didn't like Noodler because Noodler was an absolute asshole. I'm the one that pushed him into the boo box and, you know, made him walk the plank and just treated him so badly. But, you know, I go along with Robin's attitude, his raison d'etre to work, that, you know, it's easy to be a nice guy and still do your job, you know.
Right.
But I don't have any Oscars, so maybe I'm wrong.
Oh. Could Jim Wood asked if you would have ever dreamed that Space 1999 would have been as popular now, 40
Oh, good God, no.
years later?
No, I mean, yes, initially when I was doing it, I thought this is going to be Star Trek. We're all going to be world famous. I love doing this. I think it's so great, and it's not just science fiction; it's science faction. So it's based on true principles. I had high hopes for it, and I was, I have to say, emotionally rather saddened by the fact that Space 1999, in its initial stages, was so overlooked, and in particular, living in England, the British did not embrace it as their show.
Right.
And I remember my agent brought in a new agent into the agency, and she had me sit down with this new person after we'd finished Space 1999 and introduce her, and so she was introducing all her various actors. And this woman said she didn't know me. And I said, well, that's going to be a problem with her representing me as an actor. And Marina said to me quietly, look, Nick, she saw you in Space 1999. And she says that she couldn't tell if you're a good actor because you were just being yourself. And I said, right. Marina, it is the hardest thing in the world to just be yourself on camera. Most actors like to hide behind a character and get their teeth into something. But Alan Carter was really just an extension of my own personality. I was lucky that the Italian actor didn't get the role, and there's that story about Martin not wanting that man to play that role because he was so good looking. And I'd already been booked to play a character on Space 1999 that was going to be killed in the first episode. So I wasn't going to be there, but I was there throughout all the rehearsals and the first day shooting. Wow. And the director, Lee Katzin, liked me enough to suggest to the producers that if they weren't going to have the Italian actor coming over to play Alphonse Catani, that maybe this Australian actor we've got here, he can play the role.
Right.
You know, and so it's all wheels within wheels all the time. I was going to tell you that when Lee Katzin said to me, I'd like you to play this role, no, he first off said, will you have lunch with me today? And I thought, this is strange. This is director asking me, who I've got a nothing role in the show, to have lunch with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah. And he said, I've been watching what you do. He said, you clearly have an understanding of the camera, and you've done a lot of film work, haven't you? And I said, I've done a lot of film and television work in Australia before I came. Yeah, I've had my own series, Dynasty, the series, and so on, and a couple of other shows, not a couple, quite a few other shows that I shot in England. And he said, a lot of the actors on this show have come from theatre background, I can tell it. And he said, I want somebody like you in the show. I want to convince Jerry Anderson and Sylvia that you can play this part, but I need to be able to prove to them that you have the pedigree, you know, the background. Can you bring me anything? Can you bring me any footage or newspaper articles and magazines? And I said, yeah, sure. He said, bring them in tomorrow. And that's when he had lunch with me, actually. He said, I need you to do that and then come and have lunch with me tomorrow. So I brought in some clippings from things that I'd done, my little scrapbook that actors sometimes have. And one of the pictures, which I can't lay my hands on now, was a front page article of a new thing called TV Week. It was a magazine that would come out every week in Australia called TV Week. And it was about the size of the Life magazine, you know, fairly big, and a very big glossy front page of my father and myself and the two brothers, so the three of us, all standing on the front. TV Week, you know, Dynasty, starring John Tate, Nick Tate, Ron Graham, and Kevin Miles. And he said, wow, what is this? And I said, it was a television series I did in Australia. And I said, and that's my real dad. He said, your father was an actor? And I said, yeah. Then I told him that the movies that my father had done, Stanley Kramer's On the Beach, where he played the chief admiral of the Australian Navy. And he said, I know that movie. That was your dad? And I said, yeah. He said, my God, you're from a dentist. And so he said, Anderson's, you've got to use this guy. And they brought me in and auditioned me, and they weren't all that keen on that idea, but that's another story. Because, you know, they were trying to get me to speak like an Italian, and because they still wanted the Italian feel. And they said, you don't look Italian. I said, John, and I said, well, John Paul Belmondo, who was like the #1 movie star in Italy, he was blonde. And although I don't really look like him, I look more like him than the Italian actor that we're going to have playing the role, you know? Mm-hmm. So I went, yeah, that's right. A lot of Italians from the north of Italy are blonde, blue-eyed. Mm-hmm. So we could have got away with it that way. But look, it transpired in the end. They wanted me to play him as an Australian, which was easy for me.
Which worked really good.
Yeah, and also because that meant then the writers were going to come to me and say, can you tell me about your background? Can you tell me about what you do and what you've done and what you like? And I would sit with Johnny Byrne and my dear friend who is still trying to put together a television series about Chris Penfold.
Yeah, Chris.
He was one of the writers. And I worked with Chris in Australia on a television series long before that called My Brother Jack. Everything seems to have interweaving situations in my life. There's always something that I've done before that brought about this. There's no coincidence. There's a theme to stuff. It's extraordinary. I must write my memoirs and get it all out.
Yes. Yes, I'll help you if you need it.
You will.
Oh yeah, you know me.
Yeah. Ask me questions.
Yeah. Let's do one last question, and we'll let you get on about your business, and we'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
The They wanted to know how much control, or if you were in any control of the Nick Tate fan group back in the day.
Oh, well, the wonderful Eileen Skidmore and Phyllis Proctor, who ran the club, they adored me, and I loved them. They became good friends. But I had nothing to do with the running of the club at all, other than the fact that I would openly answer questions with them as I am with you now. And they would ring me, or when I was living in London and I was still there was a girl that started the fan club, a totally different person. And she was living up in Birmingham, I think, and she'd come down on a train to London and see me. And we'd sit in the train station in a coffee shop, and she'd be there for an hour, and I would give her all my news, what I was doing and so forth. And she was always very touchy-feely with me, you know. And I knew that she liked me a lot. Her name was Jackie. And she was doing a very good job. And she'd got, I don't know, a couple of hundred people in the fan club. But when I met Hazel and decided I was going to marry Hazel, I told her, this gal, that I was going to get married. She broke down and cried in front of me and said, "Please don't get married. I love you. You know I love you." And I was stunned. I had no idea. I mean, I knew that she liked me and I liked her, but there was never anything else there. I don't do that to fans. But I'm friendly, as you know. And she must have mistaken my friendship for something else. I only ever saw her for an hour at a time at a railway station.
Right.
You know? And it turns out that she had every photograph that had ever been taken of me and every bit of footage. You know, she was a true fan. And she said, "So what am I going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't think you can run the fan club anymore because it's going to be too hard for both of us." And she had another gal that had been interested who took over. And sadly, I don't know if you know the background of this. I don't even know who. I can't remember now. She was killed in a car accident, this girl. Second girl who was about to take over. And then Phil and Eileen, who were fans and part of the club and had a relationship with both those girls. They knew all the history to all that. They put their hands up and said, "Can we please do it?" And I went, if you want to do it, yes, of course. And they turned out to be wonderful. Your question posed to me, I thought when you said it, that somebody had felt that they didn't know enough, or that I had too much control or not enough control. I don't know what you meant by that question.
No, they just wanted to know how much input and everything you had in the old Nick Tate fan club.
I would answer questions. I never asked them to do anything specifically.
Right.
I didn't think there was anything that they could or should do. But it was later on that it was suggested to me that, you know, having a well-run fan club can be very advantageous to an actor because it in itself, it's got people talking about you and wanting to see you and writing letters and so forth.
Right.
Maybe if I'd been more instrumental, if I was the sort of person that, see, a lot of actors are very good at running their own publicity. They generate publicity a lot about themselves. I've never been very good at that. I've always been very grateful that, and a bit amazed that anybody would ever be kind of like a fan of mine. You know, I know that with all the trappings of Space 1999 and how brilliant the series was and how spectacular it was, that a lot of that sort of high profile quality rubs off on the actor.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, basically, I'm just like you, and I'm just an ordinary person that goes to work. My choice happens to be that I like being an actor and have always done pretty well at it. How people become big stars, there's always something that triggers something for them. And when Space 1999 first started, I was asked to lots of conventions, and I only went to about 3. I didn't want to go to them. I felt it was a bit sort of taking advantage of people who loved you and thought you were that character, and I wasn't. Although I was probably closer to Alan Carter than any other role I've ever played, because I was given the role because of who I am, and they wrote for me as an Australian. So yes, Alan Carter was very close to who I am, but not as. I'm not as brave as Alan Carter was. I'm just an actor, you know, and I couldn't pull off most of the things that Alan Carter pulled off. But then I don't think any actor, anybody playing Superman or Batman or any of these superhero characters, you know, we're just flesh and blood.
Right.
And I'm grateful for people like you who take the time to perpetuate or to generate new interest on that. I can't spend my life, however, thinking that Space 1999 is the only thing I've ever done in my life, because it isn't.
Oh, no.
As I've already told you, some of the other wonderful moments, but you know, Canterbury Tales has never been. Once I finished it, it was finished. That was it. That's the tragedy of theatre.
Yeah.
You only ever live in your memories and maybe some pictures. Films and television that you've done, they're there forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and people can rake them out years later and look at them again and go, oh my God, wasn't she young? Wasn't he tall? Oh, he had hair, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I've personally been going back through some of your films as much as I can get a hold of them. I'd love to see the Dynasty and stuff like that, but you just can't find it anywhere.
Well, no, you can't find Dynasty because sadly it was shot on a thing called Kinney Sound. This is before proper video came out. And Kinney Sound was very inflammable, and they stored all the footage of all the Australian Broadcasting Commission's television series in and I did a lot of ABC television series and one-off plays. They're all tragically burnt in this big fire that happened. So most of that stuff's gone.
Sad.
There are odd episodes that people managed to get a Kinney Sound version of. I had about 6 minutes of. I actually do have a videotape of one of the episodes of Dynasty. A friend of mine who was a director on the show, he got one of the copies. Look, it's not really worth looking at. It's old style television. It was black and white back in the 60s and 70s. You know, it was regarded as new age and avant-garde.
Right.
You know, but it was black and white before colour TV in Australia. We didn't have colour television in Australia in the 60s. It came in. When did it come in? Colour TV. Oh, it happened just a bit before Space 1999. So fortunately, although my mother had a black and white television set in 1975, when the series started showing,
Yeah.
I don't think it showed in Australia until 1976. I went back to Australia to do the lead in a movie called The Devil's Playground.
Yeah.
And I went and saw my mother and I bought her a color television set.
Nice.
And got rid of the old black and white, and she was absolutely stunned. And I sat and I watched an episode of Space 1999 with her because I had a color television series showing, and I didn't want her to look at it on that old black and white thing. So I bought her this great big lovely color television, and I had that wonderful moments with her. I think she maybe saw 2 episodes because she died.
I bet she enjoyed it.
Yeah. I don't think seeing the show killed her, but my darling mother died. I finished doing Devil's. I bought her the television set it all up. Oh, I went down and I shot the film for 6 weeks. I had 6 weeks of episodes if she watched them. I think she did. And then I came back to Sydney and I spent the last couple of days with her. And then I flew immediately back to England. I would have stayed in Australia with my mum and friends for a while. But Jerry Anderson wanted me to come back and shoot the day after tomorrow. So I had to say to her, look, I'm not going to be able to stay. I'm only going to be here a couple of days.
Wow.
And she was dead within 10 days after I left. So that was pretty upsetting to me. But it's life. You know, my mum died when I was 35, and she was 67. Here's a weird thing. Before I was born, my mother was in a play with some actors. And one of the old actresses in the play was a person that did astrology. And she used to tell all the actors about their lives because she would read their astrological signs. And she said to my mother, who was pregnant with me, that she wanted to do my astrological chart. And she said, I don't know what sex he is. I don't know what his name's going to be or not. Didn't say him because, you know, in those days you couldn't tell if he had a boy or a girl, 1942. So she said to my mother, I'll do all the preliminary work, and she asked lots of questions. And then the last week before my mother had me, and then the day I was born, my father rang her and said he was born at 4:30 in the morning, 1942. She completed my astrological chart, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never followed that stuff very much, and my mother knew that I wasn't like that I didn't. So she didn't ever tell me about it. When I got to be about 30, and I'd been living in England, I came back, she said, I think it's about time I showed you your astrological chart. And I said, oh, yeah? What's that? And so she gave me these browning pieces of paper, and it had all the star signs and everything on it. And it started to talk about who I was and what my personality was. It got me, and this was done the day I was born. It got me absolutely, totally correct. Everything that it said about me, about my personality, and that I was definitely going to be an actor. And it gave key dates in my life where things of great importance were going to happen. It predicted to the very week me being given the lead in, the second co-lead in Canterbury Tales and coming back to Australia, and the triumph this show was going to be. Didn't name what the show was, but it said that it was going to be a big spectacular, a big turning point in my life. It named all these moments. And then on my, round about my 35th birthday, it stopped. And it didn't say any more. And I said, why did she only do it up to the time that I'm going to, because I was reading this when I was about 30. Stops at my 35th birthday. Why didn't she finish it? And she says, well, I don't know, darling. That's what, you know, 30, that's fine. Everything's fine. My mother died when I was 35. She didn't need to know any more about me after I was 35.
Right.
You know, that's the only conclusion I can put on that this thing got me so right about my things that I'm good at, the things that I'm bad at, that I would not be attentive at school, that I was always showing off, and the teachers would reprimand me. You know, you're either going to be the Prime Minister of Australia or an actor, you know, because
right.
you're not a good school student, all that sort of stuff. No, it got me down to a T. Extraordinary. So there's something weird about it. you can't deny. I can't deny it. But I don't really look at it or play much sway in it. But I think that there's something there that is about the way we're controlled in life.
Yeah, I believe that to somewhat. Yeah, it's definitely cool to listen.
Cool to listen.
Cool to listen to your story like that, because I think everybody kind of experiences something like that, and not me like with the papers or sound, the broad part of it. But I always feel like I'm here for doing a reason.
Yeah.
So,
okay, well, we'll wind this up, huh?
Yeah, we enjoy listening to you. I'll tell you what, every time I listen to you, I learn something new. There's something new. Of course, if we listen to you enough, we'll have heard some stories again, but I always learn something new. And I hope the fans out there that have been with us tonight have learned something new. I know they have.
Yeah, well, my wife says, of course he's happy to talk to you because he's talking about his favorite subject.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we always enjoy it.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure knowing you, Todd. And Gordon, I can see part of your arm there.
There he is.
Both of you, you're great guys, and I thank you for your support and your intelligence and your friendship. Seriously.
Really appreciate yours as well, sir.
Yeah, we love the time we get to spend with you, and the fans do too. They've all said that they hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you.
They're so glad that you're doing so well.
Well, I'm doing a bit better because I fell down the front steps of this house and I damaged a rotator cuff that was already in trouble from years before. And not working on a film, but I fell down here, and at 78, you just don't bounce anymore. And,
no, there's no bouncing.
And I tore the rotator cuff, and it's been really, really bad, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I couldn't understand why. I started feeling desperately ill, and I just was sleeping. I'd not fall off to sleep all the time. I had the I've been going to the doctors. I've had about 6 specialists jab me with needles and MRIs and all this going on. Wow. I couldn't move my arm. I've had my arm in a sling for 5 months. Me, Alan Carter, arm in sling for 5 months. Everything I had to use my right hand. It has been so frustrating, and I've been fragile too. I've been kind of wobbly, and I just thought, well, they talk about don't ever fall when you're reaching the age of 80 because that's the end of you. Well, I was thinking, yeah, Jesus, maybe this is the end of me. And then COVID virus on top of that. Can't go out anywhere. Anyway, I finally said to this shoulder doctor, his name is Dr. Itamura. He's apparently the top guy in LA. So he wasn't operating. I said, why won't you operate on me? He said, I can't, because Nick, I can't find what is wrong with you. I don't see anything broken. This is in the MRIs, and the other people had said the same thing. So then they were testing my spine. I had to go in they put that radioactive stuff in you, and they push it around your veins, and they look. Couldn't find anything. This was going on and on. And then he said, so I'm going to do an arthroscopy on you on Thursday. Because I was like, you've got to do something, Doc. I can't sleep at night. My wife doesn't want me in the bed anymore because I'm just rolling around and I'm groaning and and I'm snoring, and it was really, really bad. And so he does the arthroscopy and calls me up the next day and said, well, he said, how are you feeling? And I said, I'm actually feeling a bit better. He said, well, you shouldn't be. And I said, I shouldn't be. He said, Nick, I have never, in all my years as a surgeon, I have never seen so much infection. You have a massively infected left shoulder. I said, how did I get infected in my shoulder? He said, injections.
Oh, wow.
Every doctor that I've gone to has given me injections in the shoulder. I must have had 15 injections in my shoulder. One of those doctors, or maybe several of them, give me staphylococci in my shoulder. It was septic, and all that septicemia was seeping through my blood and just crippling me. I'm a new person now. I don't know if you talked with me like 5 weeks ago.
I did, yeah.
So down, people said they were worried about me. Even the guy that I go to for my skin specialist, he said to me, Nick, there's something wrong with you. And I said, yeah, it's the show. He said, no, I want to help you. He's my skin specialist, nothing to do with my shoulder. He said, I want to send you to my specialist. So I went to his specialist, and they tested me, and they looked at the MRIs that they did, and they could see that there was inflammation.
Right.
Because I don't know I don't know how to read an MRI, but when they do, all the good stuff is dark or black, and the bad stuff is pale or gray. It went gray, then it went white. All my shoulder was white. He said, you got a massive inflammation in there. He didn't call it infection. Wasn't until they opened me up, they found it. So now, I don't want to show you, over there I got about 7 bottles full of pills that I'm taking. I'm on 4 antibiotics a day. And now I've broken out in rashes everywhere because I think I'm allergic to
one of the antibiotics.
But he said, you got to be on them for 6 weeks. And then when the infection is clear, he can then operate on my shoulder.
Oh, wow.
But I'm actually, look, I couldn't take my hand out of my pocket. I couldn't move it anywhere. I can now get it up to here. Where am I? But see, look, I can't hold, I wasn't able to do that. I couldn't even scratch my face. I get my hand up about like this. The elbow's down there, but now I can pull the elbow up here, and I can go up here, and I can touch my hair. See, it's still weird. I don't have proper.
Right.
And I use my right hand to pull it up with like that. Yay!
Yeah, you and I talked a while back, and you told me about you were having some serious shoulder problems, and you couldn't move it. And then I didn't hear from you for a while, so I just out of the blue, I just said, you know what? I need to call Nick, check on him, see how he's doing. And I'll be daggone if you didn't answer from the gurney in the hospital.
Yeah, I was going into the operation. And when you told me, I said, they said, you shouldn't have your phone there. I said, hang on a minute, I got to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
G'day, mate, I'm about to be operated on.
Yeah, I was stunned.
And the doctor let you keep your phone while you were going in.
Well, that all worked out.
I never let the phone out. They'd snatched it away from me after that.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
It's good to see that you're very lively now.
I'm very lively now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
you're you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, I got to go.
Yes.
You have a wonderful Christmas, wonderful Happy New Year.
We'll do this again soon.
Yes. Well, you give me reason for living. The fact that people care, and I got a lot of friends, I do, but a lot of them don't know anything about Space 1999. It's a whole other life. This is a different area of knowledge and understanding of which I appreciate greatly.
Well, we know it was a gig for you, but we do appreciate it. We do appreciate your time. We do appreciate your appreciation for us.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. So, it's all reciprocal.
Yeah.
Really do like it.
How can you not like people that like you, I don't know.
Meryl Streep, so,
well, maybe Meryl Streep would like me if I did a role with her in which I was friendly.
Right. Right.
I remember when I first came onto the show with her, we shot the show backwards. Well, no, when I say backwards, I did. There's a scene in the movie where Meryl meets my character and first meets the character. And I've actually got a tape recorder going in my sock because I'm trying to ensnare her, you know. And when she discovers that my character is not a nice man, that in fact I'm part of the Northern Territory Police, because I'm plain clothes, she doesn't know I'm a copper. And Fred said that scene wasn't in the movie. And because I asked him, you know, I read the book that it's based on. I said, there's a point where I pick her up in the car and I take her to the court case. And I said, and I stopped the car and I asked her how she managed to fool everybody and kill the baby with, you know, and she says, I can't believe you're saying these things to me. I said, no, I just think you're a very clever woman, you know, and it's just me, you and me, nobody else here. We're in the car. And she doesn't know I got a tape recorder going in my sock. But she doesn't fall for it. And she hated, and this is a true story, this actually happened to her, and she hated him ever after. So Fred said, if you play childhood, don't you try and befriend her because she doesn't want it. So, you know, I sort of understand it on the one hand. On the other hand, I think I could do just as good a job the way it is. Anyway, we've said all that.
Yep. All right, Nick. Good night, sir.
You have a good evening.
Good night, guys.
I'll be in touch with you.
Yeah, of course. God bless. Have a wonderful Christmas.
You too.
Holidays, whatever you're all going to be doing. And we'll try and keep the masks on and away from the nasties.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. That's it. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and anybody who wasn't available can watch the video after it downloads, and I'll put it on my YouTube channel.
We're also going to do one more live, I guess, Facebook Live thing on the 124 scale stuff. So don't know exactly when. We're going to make any announcement once we figure that part out, since we ran a little bit long.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, we're going to grab some dinner, and we'll definitely be back in touch because it's probably going to take a little time to set up in here. Anyway, thank you so much.
See you guys.